Okay. Good to go? Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. I will explain LINBIT's leading storage solution for CloudStack. Before we start, let me tell you who am I. My name is Yusuf Yıldız, and I'm from Vienna, Austria. Actually, my origin is from Turkey. And I worked as a solutions architect. I have a very good technical background. I devoted many years into storage industry and infrastructure industry. And I managed operations in infrastructure as a service or storage as a service in my past years. And like I said, I'm actually working for solutions architect as at the moment since 2019. And I live in Vienna with my 6-year-old sweet girl and my lovely wife. All right, so our mission as a LINBIT. So what do? We are the developers of DRBD. I bet you already heard of it. The DRBD replicates real-time data since 20 years, I guess. And it stands for Distributed Replicated Block Device. And the other one is LINSTOR, which I will explain here. Let's come to the details later on. And the company is still 100% founder owner. So this is something, and I think it's very important. And we have offices in Europe and US, but it doesn't limit us because we have partners all around the globe. And we have highly experienced Linux experts and developers in our company. So we know what we do since 20 years. We provide world-class enterprise support to our customers. 7/24, it doesn't matter. We respond to your needs. And we never missed any single SLA contract with our customers since we began. And our mission is to provide very good software to open source community. And we have like hundreds of customers since 20 years now, including AWS, Cisco, IBM, Intel, Mellanox, Western Digital, you name it. And they are still a lot of our customers, by the way. We do scalable, flexible storage software because we know operations need such kind of things. And these are not just words. I mean, we are stand for it. We are ready to do POCs wherever you like, whenever you like. And we would like to show you this thing works as you expect it all the time. Even if you have 3 nodes or 20 nodes, it doesn't matter. We do it. And we provide low total cost of ownership because that's also something that we need these days, right? You want to decrease your costs when it comes to the storage software because it's expensive when you go for the big brands. So we provide and we give you low TCO on most of the cases. And the good thing about when you lower the cost, everybody asks, okay, what about the performance? Because should we go down, right? No. Our solution, especially DRBD, is very performant solution, and it's actually the fastest in the whole storage industry. Let me explain what LINSTOR is and what it's capable of. I mean, it's not capable of taking your dog out for walking, but it's capable of doing many things. So the replication is very important because you need your data consistent and ready, available all the time. And the cluster management is also important because you know which data where, right? And when to fail over, how to fail over, these kind of things, you need it. And the performance, just we spoke, your customers or your own infrastructure needs performance. You don't need to get problems with that. LINSTOR can provide block features like replication, encryption, deduplication, and many more. I just put 3 of it here because I think these are the most important ones. And security, if you want to encrypt data at rest, LINSTOR is capable of doing that. And also disaster recovery, because that's the next step when you set up your storage. I mean, the first one is like having a reliable storage laying around in your infrastructure. And the second question is, okay, how do we do the disaster recovery? And that's, believe me, I worked for the storage companies back in Turkey, and we were trying to solve this issue for many companies. This is a huge issue, disaster recovery. And LINSTOR can provide, at the same time, high availability in your infrastructure while adding disaster recovery into it. So this is some kind of a unique thing. And you can clearly see the architecture here. So everything in the box, LINSTOR is capable of managing it. So you can think of it like that. The hardware level, whatever drive you have, we got you covered. We managed your drives within LINSTOR. And on top of that, you need a node level volume management. It can be LVM, ZFS, you name it. There are some advantages and disadvantages. And our CEO, Philip Reisner, will have a debate about that tomorrow in the session. Which one is better? Which one can be chosen? Whatever, things like that. And then there are block storage features coming into the picture, like DRBD for replication, because you need it. By the way, LINSTOR leverages DRBD. It doesn't have to use DRBD. In some cases, you might want to just skip the replication part because you're already handling it with some other way, maybe on storage level, okay? But you just want to use the LINSTOR plain, like provisioning volumes for your infrastructure. That's also possible. And then we have video. We are also leveraging video for the application. And the DM cache, B cache, like putting some cache into your spinning drives, it's also possible. And then you create your block storage. Now you need to bind it into your orchestrators, such as CloudStack. Then there are several tools that comes into the picture, like iSCSI, NVMe over Fabric, or DRBD diskless, which is way more performant than any of this, or NFS, you name it. LINSTOR can capable of using that. So, and lastly, but not least, the APIs and the drivers LINSTOR is also handles for you. We will see it in the demo. So this is the solution overview. I will just very quickly go over it because there's not much time left. So why do we integrate in Apache CloudStack? So Apache CloudStack is a great solution, but it needs high availability on storage level, right? So it lets you play with your storage. It lets you set up your own storage. So LINSTOR is great solution for this kind of job. So that's why we combined LINSTOR with Apache CloudStack 1 year before. 1 year, yeah, I think it's 2021 November, right? Yeah. So high availability is really important, and Limit SDS is born for that. And disaster recovery, I just mentioned in my earlier slides. LINSTOR can capable of creating disaster recovery for your storages, not your whole infrastructure, but for your storages. So you have to, you can replicate your data with Limit SDS for long distance replications, because DRBD can do synchronous and asynchronous replication. And then multi-deployment architecture. That's really important. It's best if you use LINSTOR with local drives, but it's also capable of giving you, let's say, a disaggregated storage stacks. So you have compute nodes, and then you have storage nodes. And then you have something in between, like good networking device, and then you will have very good infrastructure. And some of the customers are using this one too, because it makes sense for them. And the performance, the integration, obviously important for both CloudStack and LINBIT development teams work really hard to make it happen. In the demo, you will see how easy to add LINSTOR cluster into your Apache CloudStack. And there are business benefits. I mean, your customers or your own infrastructure needs high availability. This is something, not a premium thing. You have to have it, right? And this will give you a lot of business benefits because whatever you're offering is up and ready 7/24. And the replication and the cluster management, I always get this impression like the storage part is always tricky, right? People are having really hard time to make it work, like rely on it, like sleep in the nights without worrying about what will happen if one of my storage nodes fails. And this is really tricky, and this creates a lot of stress on both technical level and business level. But LINSTOR plus Apache CloudStack definitely solves this for you. Because the LINBIT SDS and the DRBD is a proven technology, rock solid replication. I mean, I talk with many customers since I joined LINBIT. It's been 3 years now. And what I constantly heard is DRBD's replication is outstanding. They just use, we have customers like using 4 years old DRBD modules because it just works. And they don't want to just replicate it, upgrade it because it works. And the world-class enterprise support, obviously. When something happens, you need someone to log into your computers or whatever infrastructure you have and troubleshoot it for you. As I mentioned, we never missed any single customer since 20 years now. And because of we missed the SLA. So our team is very highly experienced Linux and storage experts. So when something happens, you can rely on us on business level that we will fix the problem for you or for your team, whatever it takes. We have 7/24, 365 days coverage. And the low TCO, I explained it in the earlier slides, and the high performance, also again, these are very key things that you need to consider. I can't speak about this for a very long time, but I'm sorry, I have to skip fast because I want to show the demo actually. So this will be a very short demo. I actually wanted to show you guys how do we install the cluster, and after that maybe LINSTOR into it, but I will just show you what I did. And after this session, if you want to see more, I mean, how it's actually working, I can do it in our booth. Okay, so please come to the booth today, tomorrow, wherever you like. I will show you. So hopefully my cluster is up. My laptop is not that powerful, but looks like it's up. Let me try to log in. Hopefully it's not gonna fail. Okay, good. So far so good. Discovering features, okay. So I disabled my zone, so it doesn't fire up automatically. So let me enable it for a second. And then I need to fire up my system VMs. They will come up in a minute. In the meantime, I will explain you what's happening here. So when you install the Apache CloudStack, right? It gives you a kind of setup wizard. On the setup wizard, it asks you a primary storage. So on that level, we suggest you to pick LINSTOR because LINSTOR is already integrated into Apache CloudStack after 4.16 version. So in the protocol, you see here, you can select the LINSTOR instead of RBD or cluster or NFS, okay? So when you pick LINSTOR, it asks you the server IP and the resource group. I can explain this after this session in our booth. So what all you need to do is to provide the controller IP of the LINSTOR and the resource group you created for Apache CloudStack. So when you do that, the Apache CloudStack starts using your primary storage and puts your system VMs into LINSTOR. And let me log into my LINSTOR controller. In the meantime, I also need to fire up my virtual router to show you. Okay. Come on, Putty. You can do it. Okay, let's try from here. So, in here, what you will see, okay, I don't know which one failed. Maybe second. Okay, the third one is failed. I'm sorry. Okay, so it's coming up because it's just VMs. This happens in this kind of infrastructures. So what you see here is for every VM you created in CloudStack, there is 2 diskful copies because I said so. In LINSTOR, while I'm setting up my resource group, I said I want 2 replicas for each resource. I can say 3, 4, 5, depends on you. But in here, I particularly pick 2, and that means it will create 2 diskful replicas and 1 diskless replica. Diskless replica means that this resource, this particular VM, even can start in this third machine without any issue, because DRBD has a mode, what we call DRBD diskless mode, and it will work like an iSCSI, let's put it that way. The disk, let me show you that too. The disk will be present as a local device, but it's actually remote. So it's actually, the actual data is on other nodes. So let me show that too. Accept. Okay, so just check it here. So as you can see, so this is the device, okay? And the last one here, you see, is the DRBD's minor number. So it's DRBD 1000. And I type LSBLK, I see it in here, right? But if I log in to the third machine and I type LSBLK again, I see the device is here, but not the data. I mean, actual data is not here. It's actually in other nodes. So what happened here is basically these system VMs has been created in LINSTOR with 2 replicas on each and 1 diskless node. So what you will have is 2 replica and 1 diskless node. Let's create any other VM for our customers, okay? Let's select our node, cluster, let's say CloudStack 3. I don't know if it's recovered or not. Let me check. Okay, this can be tricky. I will look at it and next time. Let's pick this one. Let's give it a test. CloudStack tests. Test 1. So let's launch the instance. Hopefully it's not gonna fail because of my shitty laptop. I mean, it's a good laptop, but the RAM is not that good. It's like 16 gig. So in the meantime, let's check it from here. So what you see here, it already created the resource and starts syncing on DRBD level. And this is the one it creates here. So it created a tiebreaker node, which is a diskless on the first node. And it created a diskful node on 2 and 3. And the 2 is actually a syncing from the other node, because the first initial sync is important and required in LINSTOR and DRBD. And one more thing about LINSTOR. LINSTOR is not in the data plane. So whatever happens, like replication, like IO path, whatever it is, it's happening on the DRBD. LINSTOR is just responsible for creating or removing or modifying your nodes, your volumes. That's it. Once it creates the DRBD resource for you, just gets out of the way, you can shut down, you can upgrade, downgrade, whatever you want to do with the LINSTOR. So it will not affect your actual data. You will not affect your VMs, it will not affect your applications. And should be just fine, yeah, because the first initial sync would be fast, depends on the situation. And now you see, and here, the usage section, this particular disk for the VM is actually in use. So that means primary in the third node here. And if something happens to the third node, for some reason, the VM with the capability of the hypervisor will move into another node, let's say 2 or 1, and the data is already there because it's real-time replicated, block by block, into another node, and the VM will just keep on running. So there will be no issue. We are not distributing the data like Ceph, like many others. We are not controlling the data. Yes, we have the metadata. So each DRBD resource has a metadata, but it's like one-to-one replication, even if you remove the DRBD from your kernel. Even if you remove everything, you can reach your data. You can rescue your data, your VM's data. There will be no corruption at all. So you don't have to worry about what will happen if I screw up in my, for example, DRBD or kernel or whatever it is. If you can reach the disk, that means you can recover your data, because DRBD puts the metadata at the end of the disk. So the actual data that you have is put at the start from the blocks. That's very fantastic if you ask me. Okay, so the VM is up and running, and on the CloudStack level, we have a primary storage, which is LINSTOR, up and ready. And we set up this while we're setting up the CloudStack, but it doesn't have to be like that. So you can put a LINSTOR cluster into your Apache CloudStack setup after you create everything. But then only you need to do is to add a little tag here, let's say LINSTOR, and then on the disk offerings, you just need to add that tags here. So with that way, with that disk offering, CloudStack will know where to create that particular VM. And from the resource group definition, it knows how many replicas it needs to create. And you can also see from resource group list, you see this is the resource group I use currently, and it says place count 2. If I change it to 3, then the LINSTOR will create 3 copies instead of 2. Yeah, that's how it goes. And thank you for listening. I have 2 more minutes, I guess. If you have any questions at all, and if you want to see anything, I can. Sorry, say yes. We have. Yeah, I hope you can. I don't know if I installed or not. Let me see. Yes, we have a GUI. We developed the GUI recently, like 6 months ago, I guess. I mean, it came out from the beta. Yes, yes, everything you can do from GUI too. But you know, I'm kind of used to CLI, so that's why I'm always doing it from it. But we have a fantastic CLI I can show with you after this session. Philip, hello, by the way. Philip is here. Philip is the creator of DRBD 20 years ago. So, yeah. Do you remember the port for the GUI? Yeah, please. Because I don't remember exactly on top of my head. I think it's already installed, but let me check from here. Maybe. Sorry? Let me check. Yeah, I mean, the GUI is not mandatory. Yes, you can install it separately. It doesn't have to be inside of CloudStack. But if you want, let's say, to reach the data locally, I mean, the VMs reach the data locally because you might want it, because then the reads will be local. All the reads will hit the local devices. That will reduce your latency to reach the data. But if you don't care about it, or you have like 100 gigs of, I don't know, fiber connections, like something like that, or maybe RDMA and stuff, then you might be okay with like installing a disaggregated storage. Yes. Not FC, but yes, you can use the everything with TCP or RDMA or an iSCSI. Yeah, you can mount it, use it, whatever you like. Not FC. And the good part of LINSTOR is it definitely reduces your storage costs, also reduces your networking costs. If you don't need, let's say, very edge cases, sometimes you really need to have very high network, you know, cards and switches and so on. But most of the cases, I mean, I have seen so many cases since I joined LINBIT, most of the cases, let's say 25 gig is enough. Enough, yeah. Yeah, I mean, LINSTOR and DRBD has many features. For example, the DRBD has a feature what we call read balancing. Sometimes you have read-intensive applications. Not write, but read-intensive applications, some databases and so on. In that case, you activate it from LINSTOR. You just give the LINSTOR, the resource group, that you will have read balancing, and read balancing has many, let's say, settings. You can do round robin, you can do least pending option, you know, things like that. And then if you activate it, then LINSTOR or your VM, whatever you have, the VM will start reading from other replicas too. So let's say you have 5 replica you created, and then if you want to read from all of them, it's possible. That means your read performance will just boost. And with that, we hit the world IOPS record, actually. With a little bit of tuning and this feature, we hit the world IOPS record. Go ahead, please.
So when you install, like there are multiple ways to install. So you, on the physical device, I mean the server, the machine. So it's like we run it on a RAID configuration, or it's raw is directly mounted on the node.
You're asking if you should use a RAID card or not.
No, generally the servers will come with a RAID card, right? So in self installations, what you can do is you can have the OS in a separate RAID and the other data disk on a just raw disk, which can be mounted and used on the consumed on the self, right?
Yeah.
So in LINSTOR, how does it work?
So first of all, LINSTOR needs a Linux machine.
Yeah.
Or yeah. So you install the Linux, and also LINSTOR needs a.
Done.
Is that? So also LINSTOR needs block devices that hasn't been used. So you provide the block storage to LINSTOR. You can give it one by one every disk. It doesn't matter. LINSTOR can create RAID arrays from that or use individually. It doesn't matter. You just create a volume group, whatever you like. It depends on your need. And then LINSTOR consumes it as a whole and then gives you a logical DRBD device, actually. So you have like the physical storage layer. Most likely you create a RAID type of thing, maybe if software RAID or hardware RAID or whatever you like, or maybe no RAID at all. Because when you think about it, the data is already being replicated to another machine. So maybe you will just have a lot of NVMe devices in your first machine, and then you create another replica in another machine. So it doesn't matter if one NVMe fails. The data is already replicated to another machine because DRBD actually works like RAID 1 array. So you have RAID 1 replication for whatever you have. But you might want to skip the failover if a disk fails. Because, you just won't have only one disk failure that doesn't disturb anything. Then you might want to go with the RAID beneath DRBD. But it reduces your performance because every layer you add into your stack, it increases your latency. So if you don't want that, you need a very high performant block devices. You are already covered by DRBD. Yeah. Please go ahead. Do we have any other session after this? No? Okay, then just we can move on. Yeah. You have the GUI? Great. Yeah, let's. Is it 33? 37. Let me just try from here. If it works, it works. Oh, it works. So, yeah. No, I mean, I installed it. That's the surprise. I didn't know if I installed it or not, so I installed it, yeah. Sorry that I didn't remember the port because, yeah. So please go ahead.
Yeah. You said before that if something wrong goes with primary replica,
okay,
and the VM is starting in another host, okay, where the second replica is in it.
Okay, so you're asking,
who is in charge of relocating the VM?
Okay, so the VM is in charge by CloudStack or KVM. So LINSTOR is a block storage. That's it. It doesn't care about your VM. It doesn't care about your anything. But in some of the integrations that we made, we specifically tell the orchestrator to choose where the secondary is. So we can make this happen, for example, in Kubernetes. We tell, okay, we also do in Kubernetes. So we tell the Kubernetes engine to fire up the pod where the secondary lies in. So this is possible, but I am not 100% sure it's possible for CloudStack. I have to talk with the relevant developer, but most likely, I mean, it will just pick any node. And please don't forget, if something happens to the primary, the VM will fire up in any machines, but every machine knows the disk because we have disk list too. So even if the data is not there, what will happen is it just reads out the DRBD with a diskless mode, just like iSCSI, you can think of it. So there will be no let's say there will be no issues regarding to
automatically point to the second copy. No,
sorry?
It will point to the second copy. That is what it is.
The secondary will become primary. If primary goes down, for some reason, that secondary becomes primary, and with time, LINSTOR will create another secondary in the cluster. Let's say you have 5 machines. This one goes down, and what in this server, some volumes are primary. And by the way, LINSTOR not puts all of the primaries in one machine. It distributes it. Okay, so the workload will be distributed inside of your cluster. So let's say the server 1 goes down. And what will happen is, whatever lost in that node eventually will be evacuated from the LINSTOR cluster, because LINSTOR has this auto eviction feature. And LINSTOR starts healing itself, because let's say the VM1 needs 2 replica, but right now one node goes down, and that VM only have 1 copy which is running. And LINSTOR realizes that and starts healing that resources. So it will just create another copy in another node where it thinks suitable, where that resource group is possible, and then after some time, it can be triggered by time, it will create the secondary copy.
How fast does this replication happen?
Sorry?
How fast will this replication happen?
Oh, it depends on your disk, it depends on your network, it depends on many things. I mean, the DRBD is the fastest replication you can find, but if you have 2 terabytes of volume, and if you have a spinning drives, it will take some time to catch up with the current.
So any use case or example that you can cite?
So the good part of LINSTOR and DRBD, we are not doing a replication by whole. So let's put it this way. So we create resources for each VM. So we are not like replicating one machine to another. We are creating individual replications for each VM disk. So that will save you a lot of time, to be honest, because let's say if you lose some machine, you only need to replicate those VMs in time. So very small, let's say 100 gig, 200 gig, I don't know, a terabyte at most. But the another thing is DRBD also supports resynchronization. So let's say the primary goes down, and the secondaries becomes primary, and after 5 minutes, primary comes back again online, or let's say an hour, let's say 2 hours. So what will happen, the DRBD will check the metadatas between these 2 machines and understands which one is the old one, which one is the new one, and just syncs where it's left, because only 2 hours left, 2 hours passed, and DRBD will just sync that lost 2 hours from the primary to the secondary. Yeah.
Thank you. No more further questions.
Yeah, you can. Because we don't have any, I didn't know that. If I knew, I would do it longer, I didn't know that. So.
So when you were listing block devices earlier, I couldn't help but notice the type were like LVM. So am I correct in assuming you present your VM disks as LVM?
So what I did here, just for the demo purposes, so I have this STB physical block device, and I create a volume group, LVM volume group on top of it. Then I let LINSTOR to consume it, because LINSTOR always needs a LVM or ZFS. So you have to pick one of them. And that's why you're seeing this LVM type of disk here, because LINSTOR knows that this is an LVM type, because I told LINSTOR this is an LVM volume group, and this is what LINSTOR does. But you can go for the ZFS too, and this is how it goes.
Okay, sorry if the question was already asked, I zoned out for a bit. So when you present your storage to KVM, what exactly is it? It's a block device, but
Yeah.
and it's not LVM. So what is it exactly? If
I
make any
didn't
sense.
understand, to be honest. I mean, yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, I try to explain it in my words. It is LINSTOR controls LVM, for example, and creates logic volumes. And if the resource group wants that, it also puts DRBD on top of it to enable replication. And all that is done by LINSTOR. So the flow of control is CloudStack needs a new volume for a virtual machine. That request goes to LINSTOR, to the LINSTOR controller process, and it's mapped, well, you map it to a resource group. And the resource group contains an exact policy how the storage stack should look like. So maybe 2 replicas, maybe 3 replicas, synchronous, asynchronous. Maybe you have labels on your nodes, like this node is in room A and this node is in room B, and maybe you have another site. Then your allocation policy in the resource group could refer to these labels, saying create 2 copies and they need to be in different racks in the same room, things like that, right? And when LINSTOR decided on which node it should go, and LINSTOR also considers how much storage is available in the volume group, and if it's thinly provisioned, it will consider how much is already consumed in the thin pool, etc. So LINSTOR decides which nodes the replicas go. Then it creates a logic volume there. Then it configures DRBD for you. And then the final DRBD device path, that's handed back. And it's then available on 2 or 3 machines. But your CloudStack cluster might be bigger, right? It might be 10 or 100 machines. And CloudStack could request to migrate your VM somewhere else, right? Then this request goes through the CloudStack driver again. And LINSTOR gets the request, okay, now we have this volume, we have the replicas here and here, but now we need it on another machine, right? That's a method we call make it available. So in order to make it available quick, this DRBD resource gets a new diskless assignment on that new node. And so like immediately the VM can be migrated over to that node. And then the VM is running there with the pros and the cons, right?
Yeah.
What QEMU sees there, what KVM sees, is just the block device.
Yeah. It's dev/DRBD 1000.
That is a DRBD.
Yeah. Yes.
So I use DRBD quite a lot, but it was a few years ago. So I noticed certain things have changed, so I haven't kept up with it. But still, you just get a dev DRBD, something which is replicated how many times you've asked it to. And that's what's presented to QEMU. That's what I wanted to. Because I wasn't clear. Do you have the DRBD device and then you put an LVM on top, or do you have an LVM make DRBD over the LVMs? Or
so it's like physical disk, LVM, and DRBD.
Right.
So DRBD is presented to your hypervisor.
Okay.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. Thank you.
And you can create another LVM on top of your DRBD, but that's up to you.
Yeah.
That's your application. You name it. Any other questions? Or any other thing you want to see?
Yes. When are resize operations supported by LINSTOR?
LINSTOR is supporting
so
resizes. Yeah, expand and I don't know about shrinking. Shrinking? Supposed to? Yeah, on tin maybe, but thick ones is a little bit tricky, right?
It supports shrinking. Okay, yeah. If the file system supports it. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's extended for works. XFS doesn't.
Yeah.
Extended for works.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure I'm gonna have other questions.
Yeah, you can just
Visit.
come and ask me anything.
Yeah,
Okay.
So when you used DRBD a few years ago or a long time ago, one of the major differences in all versions before 9, you had this command DRBD ADM primary, right, to activate it. Now, since DRBD 9, there's a thing called auto promote. So now you no longer need that. So all you do is you just start to access it. And if there's no primary, in the moment you open it, it becomes primary. And if you try to open it on another node at the same time, the open will fail there. So we allow only one primary and it becomes by itself primary. And that makes the integration with CloudStack and other stacks a lot easier because we just need to present it, the block device, and when then QEMU or KVM starts and opens it, then it promotes to primary on just exactly that node. So that's might be the missing link when you come from the old DRBD world.
That's something definitely I didn't know.
Keep up with the mailing list. So the mailing list is amazing. I also use mailing list to keep up with the changes most of the time. So I suggest you to do it. Yeah. Any other questions? Then I think I call it day. Thank you for joining. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. I will be in here for 3 days, today, tomorrow, and the day after. So if you have any questions regarding to DRBD, LINSTOR, Apache CloudStack setup, I have this small demo. I can show you many things. Yeah, thank you.